Brian Flores took a different approach than many of us have seen before. Very reminiscent of Roger Staubach.
Yeah, so we can compare a rookie QB to a toddler.
So that's why I have the Mavs winning in 7, and then Luka's just going to be Luka.
Hayward's absence for this game will be significant, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game turns into a blowout as of late.
The Golden Knights just can't pull it. I really think the Avalanche are determined this year.
They made so many moves and grabbed so many guys that they have to win a championship or at least make the finals. They were on our championship and bust.
Dallas has just been on a tear. I believe we can attribute that to Jason Robertson. Also, Jake Ottinger, who's really stepped in.
Kaprizov and the rest of this crew. Jordan Greenway, who doesn't get enough props. He definitely is somebody who needs to be mentioned more. I definitely think this is going to be a great series, and I'm interested to see how much Kaprizov can impact the game as a rookie.
Yeah, and as a Cowboys fan, I have learned how dangerously good Aaron Rodgers has been with he can just thread a pass.
Is the Avalanche versus the Blues. I believe the Blues are starting to play some of their best hockey all year, and so they can push this to 6 games.
If Leiter's there, I'm happy with Leiter because I think he fits into what you were saying about a much quicker thing. But if Leiter's not there, which is seeming so, I say Jordan Lawler at number 2.
The same self. The only year he won an MVP was the year he cheated, which really should put something against that MVP. But
there will be a Rodgers playing for Green Bay, even though he may not be the quarterback. But it's still unknown there. Austin is giving me the dead stare, so I guess don't mention Aaron Rodgers to him right now.
A top 3 corner in the league in Jair Alexander, and pairing him with a really fast corner should definitely assist in their ability to guard anybody in their division and anybody in the league.
Hello, I am Ruby Ackerman, and you are listening to Outsider's Opinion with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. Today, we are starting off with All-Star discussion once again, as now we have the full All-Star roster, and Austin and I are going to list a few players that we would like to swap out for some other players, as we definitely don't like one starter, and that one's pretty easy because we talked about that in last NBA Opinions. But Austin, let's go first with the All-Star game just in general. I'm surprised we're having it. I'm not. Are they doing what they did last year when they just pushed it on to like 1 week? Or like 1 day? Wasn't it 1 day? Like they did the skills, the 3-point, and then the game?
I thought they normally do 3 days, but I'm pretty sure last year they did 2. They did all last year. No, last year I don't think they had the Rising Stars. Last year I just think they had all the competitions on 1 day. The next day they had, and they didn't have the celebrity competition either. Normally it's celebrity competition and Rising Stars, and then it's the events. It's skills, 3, dunk, and then it's the game on Sunday. But I don't know what they're going to do. I'm assuming they're going to do a 3-day thing. Normally they do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Normally.
Yeah. I just
Celebrity and Rising Stars.
Because of COVID, I don't know if they're going to do that. I wouldn't just have the game because, like, COVID once again, like, you're trying to fit stuff in and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a big thing. Are they going to cancel it? And same thing with the NHL. Like, you're having an All-Star game.
Yeah, just money. Games are
getting canceled left and right. So that's my thing about it. But let's go into the All-Star reserves. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so the first All-Star reserve, or let me just name them. So the All-Star reserves, I'll just go into the starters. So we'll start with the East. I already named the starters before, but just in case you forgot, it's Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Trae Young, and DeMar DeRozan. All very deserving candidates. KD's out. He's not going to play. So I have no issue with him being selected. I just have an issue with him being captain. This is why I just hate about the fan votes. Fans do not deserve the right to vote for players. They're just voting their favorite players, not actually the players who actually deserve it the most. I even though I do vote to try to put some of my judgment into it, I hate voting, and I think it kind of degrades the entire point of being an all-star. What were you saying?
I'm gonna push back on like no votes for fans. I think it helps engagement, but don't have fan vote be the majority of the vote. Like, have fan vote be like 10% or something.
How about this? I'll switch it up. Fans get to vote for the captain. That's it.
Okay, I'm good with that. but they can still like do a team and whatever. But I just don't want the thing. I think is the majority. Like I think Andrew Wiggins got in because of the fan vote and because he's playing for the Golden State Warriors. So I just think that's my thing with him. Like I don't think he should be an All-Star starter. And I think a majority of that is because of his voting. I think you should do like maybe 25%. Do the players vote on this? I can't remember. I know
Yeah, they
media
do.
vote on it.
One of them, it's media, and then players slash coaches slash GMs all take a vote, and
All of
then
them are just in one group.
yeah, players,
I
coaches,
maybe
and GMs.
I maybe split that up. Like take I think fans are
Maybe
50%.
not. Maybe GMs don't vote. I know coaches vote, and I know players vote, and I know they're in the same category because it's media, coaches, and players at least. It may be GMs as well, and then fan vote. It's 25%, 25%, and then 50% for fans.
Okay, so I take 50, maybe let's do 25% just to make the math easy of fans. That other 25%,
I put for coaches
um,
and players.
I would make players their own category that's 25%. And then I have coaches and GMs in their own group.
I like that. Okay, I'm okay with that.
Because I
I'm okay
think
with that.
players can maybe be a little biased. Um, like they may go, oh, I'm seeing this guy, so I'm going to vote for him. I think GMs and coaches should be the majority of it.
Well, you still have 25% media. No one would be the majority in your
Well, yeah,
in what you
but
just
I
said, but
kind of,
I'm totally fine with that
yeah,
because I
I
feel
think
like the
media or I think media can also get skewed sometimes, but I think GMs and coaches, I think might have the most value with when talking about like what player deserves to be an all-star starter and all-star player, if that makes sense.
that's true. All categories can be biased, but I feel like if a player is really good friends or went to college with a player, he's more inclined to vote for that player. But uh, I never use. We need to eventually have an R ranked all time players in all sports. I think that would be a fun episode to do and see how much we actually differ on everything. Because
Given how we differ with QBs.
I do not use accolades whatsoever to accolades meaning fan given out or media given out awards. I count obviously championships. I count conference championships. But all star games are irrelevant. I don't care if you made more all star games than another player. I don't. I don't care if you won one more award in a certain category than another player, or if, even if you won less. It doesn't matter what you did because it accolades wise because that's just you have no bearing on that. You really don't. But
I would be interested. I
yeah.
will
Let
start
me move to
compiling my
the
own list, and I'll have
well.
to mess with it a couple of times.
Yeah, I've already ranked my top 100 NBA players on my phone. I have it in my notes category. So I mean, I could
I'm
go
not
through a
there
whole
yet.
100 right now. But uh,
It'd probably be better than
now to
the
mention
top
the reserves
75.
for the East. What we say?
It probably your 100 would probably be better than the top 75. Remember they did the top 75 players.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think
It,
Anthony Davis in that list.
I have no
I think
idea. I haven't
I think
checked.
they put him
The
in that.
only one I saw was Dirk, and that's because I got a notification about it.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I'll let you talk about the reserves.
Yeah, so here are the reserves for the East. Not in any particular order because they're just selected. They're not really voted in, so it doesn't really matter the order. But Jimmy Butler, Darius Garland, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Chris Middleton, Jason Tatum, and Fred VanVleet. I like that Fred got a nod. The Raptors are starting to play well. Jason Tatum, I'm kind of on the fence about. I'm fine with him getting in, but he's shooting much worse from the field this year than he did last year. 43% this year, 45.8 last year. He's playing more minutes, 36.2 or something like that minutes per game, and he's also attempting 20.9 shots per game. So he's just kind of scoring points because he's taking so many shots. And obviously, you have to be talented to be in the game that much, but I do think he's a hindrance sometimes, especially when it gets really cold. But the changes I would make to the East are very slim, only one change. I would move LaMelo Ball in for Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton this year is averaging 19.6, 5.6 rebounds, 5.2 assists, while LaMelo is averaging 19.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, 7.6 assists. I just feel like LaMelo is much more involved in this team winning, even though Chris Middleton is obviously a great player. It just I think LaMelo should get the nod over Chris Middleton. I feel like he's been a better player this year and deserves that spot.
So I'm adding Lamelo too, but I'm not replacing Middleton. I think I'm going to replace Lamelo replaces Tatum. I feel Tatum was good. It's just he's kind of had a down year, like you were talking about, and given the Celtics, I believe I'm checking right now. The, I feel the Hornets are in the playoffs, or no, they're just below the Celtics. But I feel Lamelo should get the nod, and I replace him. I replace Tatum with Lamelo. What do you think?
Yeah, the only issue I have with that and with mine, because they kind of consider somewhat both of those players like LaMelo's like obviously a point guard slash shooting guard, but Chris Middleton and Jason Tatum are both small forwards, even though they both play like shooting guards. So even though I made that switch, I don't know if that switch would actually be legal, and that's why I have another thing just in case if that does not work, and because KD is out. I feel like another player that should get the nod, not necessarily because of his shooting splits, even though his shooting splits are getting better as the season goes on, is Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma is averaging 16.4 points, 8.9 rebounds, and 2.9 assists while shooting 46, 34, 68.6 as it splits. His importance to the Wizards cannot be defined by those stats. He has hit more clutch shots, made more clutch plays than the stats show. And that's where stats can be wildly overrated because you see a player averaging so much more points on a higher clip. But when the time comes, when the game-winning shot needs to be shot, he misses all of them. Shoots worse from that. Kuzma, there's only been one time this season I know of that he hit a shot right before that got us into it, down by one. Then he fouled. They made both free throws, and then Kuzma missed the shot right after that would have tied the game. But I have very little blame. Our last win against the 76ers, I think 2 days ago, he had a block when we were up two, I believe. Yeah, we were up two. We were up two, and Kyle Kuzma blocked Joel Embiid as he was driving in, and that really helped us win the game. And while I don't think he should get an over Lamelo, if that spot does open up, I think Kuzma should get at least to look at because I believe his importance cannot be uh, stated just by looking at the stats.
I can see that and understand your reasoning. Um, I kind of would also like to put Jared Allen in this, but I don't know where I would put him in
Yeah,
like
I was
in
having that. I
yeah
totally agree. I
yeah you go.
yeah, I totally agree.
Okay.
I was looking at Tatum because Tatum's technically a small forward, and I was like maybe Jared Allen, but I don't know how they look at that. It just the way they do it is weird. They should just have the 12 best players, not worry about uh,
Yeah, because
positions.
it's mostly NBA basketball is mostly positionless now. Like Luca's 6'7" and he's a point guard, and same with LeBron, who usually plays point sometimes. So I think I agree. 12 best players. Um, I don't really. I made one change. We both made one change with the East. I'm fine with the East. The thing I think we both disagree with is the West, especially when Andrew Wiggins is your starting forward.
Hmm.
Outside of that, though, I'm totally cool with it. Like LeBron, Curry, Morant. I feel Morant earned the job to be a starter in the
Yeah,
All Star game.
yeah. Did you just want me to name them all then?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the West. I'll start with the starters: LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, Andrew Wiggins, Stephen Curry, John Morant, and then the reserves are Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, and Carl Anthony Towns. Um, because of how good the Suns are, I'm totally fine having Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Luca deserves to make it. Rudy Gobert deserves to make it. Draymond deserves to make it, even though he averages under 10 points. I understand that, but he's also averaging 7 assists, 7 rebounds, over a steal, over a block. He deserves to make it, in my opinion. The one I have issue with is Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell has missed games, and he's averaging 25 points per game, but points per game are so overrated. He only averages 3.9 rebounds and 5.2 assists, while averaging 1.6 steals, while Deontay Murray is averaging 19.6 points, 9.2 assists, 8.4 rebounds, and 2.1 steals. Uh, he's just much more impactful. And I believe while Rudy Gobert is definitely I think the best player on the Jazz, Deontay Murray is better than Donovan Mitchell in my mind. If I had to choose a player between those two, I would take Deontay uh, Murray because of his impact on the boards, He's better at getting passes, and he leads the league in steals per game. So he's a good defensive player as well. And I think he definitely deserves a nod. And I'm very disappointed he didn't.
I agree. He deserves a nod. I don't know how I put him in because the player that sticks out to me is Carl Anthony Towns. I just him being in there just surprised me. But I don't know who I replace him with because I kind of have to do a center on that one. But I feel Deontay Murray should be in there. And then with Donovan Mitchell versus Deontay Murray, I both are good, and maybe it's the spotlight. Donovan Mitchell has gotten more spotlight because the Jazz have been a better team the past few years versus the Spurs the past few years. Um, I would probably take Mitchell because of just what I've seen him do in the playoffs. But I'd be curious what Dejounte Murray, and I'm sure the Spurs are going to come back in maybe
Oh
this year or
yeah,
next year.
100%. And now that they got Zach Collins back, who's been out for a minute, I think they should get better. And they played very close games. Like they lost to the Warriors the other day by 2 points. They lost to the Suns the other day by 4 points. And I know you're still not winning games, but they play everyone tough. I would not want to play the Spurs right now, no matter the team I am, because they play tough.
I
Going on
just
to your
never.
cat thing. Going
Well,
on to
yeah,
your
I
cat
just
thing.
never want to play the Spurs.
Oh yeah, but going on to your cat thing, cat's shooting 1.5% from the field, 40.2% from three, while averaging 24.3, 9.6, 3.9, with averaging over a steal and over a block. I think Cat deserves to make it. Now, if Jared Allen was in the West, I would put Jared Allen over Cat, mainly because of how well the Cavs are playing. But the Timberwolves are still in a playoff spot. They're one of 7 teams that are above 500 in the West. So I I definitely think that Cat should have made it. And I know it may be a little bit. I just think they should. Honestly, I think that because they draft the teams. We all know they draft the teams, and because of that fact, there should just be the best 24 players, in my opinion. Not even best 12, just best 24, and then just draft them. Have two captains at the top, draft all the players, and then mainly because there's not there. It's not an East versus West thing anymore. And if you just had all the best players, no, there in theory there should be no snubs. In theory,
Yeah, I agree. And when I thought about Cat, and I'm like, well, who do I replace him with? And I couldn't think of anyone who I could replace him with. So, but if we're like talking like what we wanted, what we both agree is top 24 players, then I probably put Deontay Murray in. And I agree with what you're saying. I I'm curious like how because there's only one listed center on the All Star roster for the East, and that's Joel Embiid,
hmm
and everyone else is forward or guard. While the West has three centers, you got Jokic, Gobert, and Towns. So I kind of agree. It'd be nice if they did just top 24 players, and then they changed the voting. The thing to me is voting. I think that's a big part of it, and then everything else. I love the 3-point competition. I think the dunk contest could be made better. I just think like the dunks are cool, but I think out of all the events All Star Weekend, it's a 3-point competition. That's greater than all the games.
if you
Wait on that.
one second, for all those wondering why I didn't include Demontis Sabonis, because I feel like that may be a hot topic. It's because he's already been selected to replace KD. And so while he didn't get selected, I feel like there's no he's going to the All-Star game. So I don't think there was a reason for me to include him over anybody because he's already going to the game because of KD's injury. So he's already been selected. He's going to the All-Star game, and I definitely would have had Domantas Sabonis over Jason Tatum, but he's already going. So there's no reason to take out Jason Tatum now because Sabonis is going to the game. That was reported by Adam Silver, who will replace him. Domantas Sabonis will replace KD. So I'm totally fine now with Jason Tatum making it because Domantas Sabonis is in. I would have had Domantas Sabonis above Jason Tatum, but because I said he's making it, I thought it was just it's being a little extra if he's already going to replace Jason Tatum because then Jason Tatum will replace KD and then they both make it anyway. So you understand my point?
Yeah, that's a good catch. So, what are your thoughts on my thing? I think 3-point competition, best competition. And then
Oh,
I
by
go
far.
All-Star game.
I've told you this. Sports in my mind are things that are not decided by judges or or refs. Meaning, if I hit a home run, right, you can't say that wasn't a home run. If I make a three, you can't say it wasn't a three in the NBA. If I make a dunk, you can't say it wasn't a dunk. Like in sports, like I may get fired for this, but I don't consider sports like diving a sport. Why? Because it's a decision of the judges who was better. I could think this one was better, and the other person could think that one was better. Same thing with cheerleading. It's judges. I thought this performance was better. No, I thought this performance was better. That's not really a sport in my mind because the judges are the one who chooses who wins. In a very close matchup where I think this person won and you thought that person won. Well, how are we going to decide? Oh, then we just vote and do all this other stuff. Well, in sports, I thought this team was better. I thought this team was better. Well, let's see who wins the game. We can't control that being a ref in the perfect system. And then that's why I don't like the dunk competition because it's not a sport. It's taken out of context. It's just well, the judge thought this one was better. Well, the judge thought that one was better. It's just the 3-point contest. As long as it is a 3-pointer, you can't say he didn't make the shot. So that's why I love that competition more than any of the other competitions. I like the skills competition more than the dunk competition, mainly because again, if he makes it when he passes it, if he goes in the hole, it counts. You don't just get to say, "Oh no, I don't think that pass was as good as the other guy's pass." So yeah, the dunk competition is my least favorite. Even though I love to see high flyers put down some crazy dunks, I don't really take who wins it all that seriously.
Same. I'm gonna push on. I think we have different definitions of sport. My definition of a sport, when I like think of sport, it's like above physical, like normal physical activity, and then whatever is more than average physical activity. So like soccer, that's a sport because you're doing a high intense physical activity. So I would put cheerleading and diving into a sport in my sport category because you are it's you there's training involved and you
Oh no, no, no.
need to be
I
physically
totally.
fit.
I mean, there's training involved
No,
for
no,
being
you're
an
good.
actor, though. There's training involved for being other things than just a
Well, but
sports
like
figure.
physically,
It's still a match. It's still a competition. I still totally agree with that. It's still fun to watch. I love watching diving because I have no idea how the water never comes up that much. I actually I know it's physics and stuff, but I don't understand it whatsoever. But
we
my
struggle
point
with
is,
math. We don't want to add physics into that
yeah, no,
too.
no, yeah, that would just yeah, we would yeah, we would get nothing done. But I feel like okay, are board games a sport? Because at least
No,
mentally, why not? Because at least mentally,
because like I'm talking like
one
physically.
second, one second, one second.
I know, physically active,
What do you consider?
above
What is
average
physically active?
physical. Like I am moving my
Is running
body.
around your room a sport?
Yes, because it's above physical activity. So under my category, and that's why I'm gonna catch heat for this, is marching band is a sport using my definition because marching band, you have to be
Are you just
you have
saying that
like
because you were in marching band, or you
no
just?
no I'm talking about like these. Oh, shoot, what was that? Like there are marching competitions where the guys like their heart rate is above average, but like concert band, not a sport because like you're just sitting in a chair.
Me
Like
is watching a game a sport then? Because my heart rate
no,
is raised sometimes.
no, but you're
Eh,
not like running around and stuff.
My
So
heart
that's just
thinks I
my
am.
definition of a sport. Marching band would fit into my category.
Any sport where a judge decides it, I do not count as a sport.
So
If
under
a
your
judge,
category, marching band is not a sport because that
no.
requires a judge.
If a judge decides who wins, not the scoreboard or not who I consider chess a sport. Why? There's no ref involved. The two chess players decide who wins. No one the judge didn't step in and say, "Oh, I don't like how you made that move. I don't think that move is going to work." And then just say, "Oh, now you lose." I consider chess a sport because the players, the people who are playing the game decide who wins. It's not just, "Oh, well, I thought that was better." Well, no, it wasn't better. Well, yes, it was. And that's what the dunk competition is. It's While I honestly thought Aaron Gordon's dunk was worse than Derrick Jones Jr. because he touched Taco Fall's head. If you're going to clear Taco Fall, you have to clear Taco Fall. And so I believe Dwayne Wade made the right choice. I would have given it a 9 just because he didn't complete what he was setting out to do. Even though the dunk was very, very, very impressive, I believe that Derrick Jones Jr. should have won the competition. However, inherently it is flawed because it's humans deciding who wins that are not attached to the game. And so, again, if I make a shot within the rules, the ref can't just say, "No, I didn't think that shot was I don't think that shot was good enough. That shot doesn't count." Like this just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, I can see that. But I just want to bring up my definite. We have different definitions of sport, but thinking about chess, I don't know where I would rank chess. It's like it's very mentally, like it's very impressive. Everything we're talking about, very impressive. But to me, sport is like physical activity, running around.
You're moving your hand more than you normally do.
That's true, but I don't know if it's very simple. Like running around and like marching, it's like very disciplined marching. I know I just
Well,
used
I mean, but
marching.
think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Wouldn't that put golf in a weird situation? You're walking around 99% of the time.
That's true, but the thing is, hitting it like you need an incredible amount of strength.
I think it's more finesse than strength, unless you're using a driver. But
Well, if you're I'm not now we're straying out of
DeChambeau,
my DeChambeau, the bodybuilder,
you know, even he doesn't hit it
or
with
Brooks
strength all the
Koepka.
time.
That's what I'm thinking of. Brooks Koepka. That's the guy who got jacked. Or was
Oh
that
no, it's
DeChambeau?
DeChambeau. Both are jacked, but
Both are
DeChambeau is
jacked.
the one. Yeah, both hit it very far. But again, that's only with the driver. It's more finesse. It's
Well,
very
yeah,
hard to
I
win a
know.
competition.
Like Tiger was more finesse, and so was Phil Nicholson.
Mickelson, yeah.
Nicholson. Like that's more finesse. But then you have guys like DeChambeau and Kepka who are just I'm gonna hit it as far as I can because isn't I'm DeChambeau's not good at putting, right?
Well, not as good as some of the finesse guys, yeah. But
Yeah. So we're straying out
well,
a little
okay.
bit
One last
with
thing. One
golf.
last thing. Do you consider racing a sport? Because that considers very little activity when you talk about it, and
That's
that's why I
true.
consider chess a sport. So if chess is a sport, racing is a sport, and I consider racing a sport, so I have to consider chess a sport because both are very, very high intense mental sports. Racing is much more mental than it is physical, obviously,
That's
and
true.
so I
I'm gonna
consider
leave
both those
those
sports.
out of my sports.
Then what is racing?
No, I'm saying both. Like I agree, chess and racing are connected, and they're out of
No,
my
but then what
sports.
is it? What is racing?
I don't
Like
know.
I consider things decided by a judge as competitions. Those are competitions. A competition is different than a sport in my mind. Even though sports are competitions, competitions aren't all sports. They're just competitions.
I don't know where I rank competition. I don't know what I put racing and chess in. They're just not in my typical view of a sport, of what I
Interesting.
would
So
define as a
you
sport.
have diving as more of a sport than racing.
And yes, because
Interesting.
it's more physically engaging.
Is
That's
it?
a good word. Physically engaging. Yes.
Physically engaging is very, very, very vague. I am physically engaged right now, moving my mouth.
You're mentally engaged
No,
because we're
I'm
having a
moving my
mental
mouth.
discussion. Yes, but no, but like you need above average physical engagement.
Then that again considers running around your room in a panic as a sport. Walking your dog is now a sport.
No, walking because walking is like an average physical engagement.
Is horse racing a sport? It can't be.
No, yeah, it's not.
Then neither is everything that has to do with anything where you're racing anything. Anything where you're I'm trying to think of something that can combat what you said, but I just totally disagree
We
with
just
that.
have different views, which is fine.
I think you're doing a little bit of bias considering the fact that you did
I
marching
did do
band.
marching band, but I
Marching
feel
band's not a sport. It just can't be.
I feel It's a sport because it's
You
physically
feel.
engaging.
Yeah, you feel. Mine's not based on feels.
Physically engaging. You're
Physically engaged.
it's
Again,
you have
again.
to stay completely still.
That's what I do when I sleep.
Yeah, but are you also playing an instrument while staying completely still?
I don't know I'm asleep.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little digression. Well, not just a little digression. It was about like 10 minutes. But now let's go into the second part of our episode. Trade with the Clippers. We had another one. I really like this trade for the Clippers because you're still waiting on Kawhi and Paul George, but you get some nice players in Norman Powell and Robert Covington. I know I heard people saying Covington was not as good, but still Covington's a good pick. And I forgot we had figured it out off air. Bledsoe was in the multiple trades from the Pelicans to the Grizzlies to the Pat Bev trade. I don't hate it for the Trailblazers. I think they could have gotten more for Powell and Covington. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and just to clarify what the trade is, it was Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, and Keon Johnson, and a second round pick for Norman Powell and Robert Covington. I feel like this trade is definitely won by the Clippers, mainly because of the defense that is brought with Robert Covington, along with the scoring of Norman Powell. Norman Powell is someone who had to play defense when he was on the Trailblazers, and he's just not a quality defender, and that's okay because he's a very good scorer. So him allowing the Clippers are now allowing him to be his full self and just put all of his energy on offense, which is sometimes needed if you need to get a lot of points against a good team.
And they have great defenders in Kawhi and Paul George, and they still have Serge Ibaka, and I've heard they've been shopping Nick Batum, but still some quality defenders. But in addition, with Norman Powell, you got more offensive side. So it'll be interesting if Kawhi and Paul George come back this season. Because Norman Powell, is Covington on a 1 year contract?
Yeah, Covington is expired.
But Norman Powell, I think, has one more year.
I'm checking right now. I believe
Okay.
that's right, but I know that 2 more years are on the Bledsoe deal after this year, but next year he's only guaranteed 4 of his 18 million. So, oh
I
no,
don't.
Norman Powell is under contract till 25, 26.
Okay. I think so. He'll probably be a long term piece or maybe short term. I think,
It depends on what they do with him, but yeah.
yeah. So it's not like total, like they're going all in this year because Kawhi and George are out for we don't know how long. I don't hate Bledsoe being paired with Damian Lillard. That's a possible pairing, or I don't hate it, but I feel you could have gotten more.
The issue I have with it is the fact that you have Anthony Simons, a young point guard who's continuously getting better, and now you're just adding another point guard into the mix. It's going to take minutes away from your young uh, players. So I totally disagree with this trade in that respect, and that's the only reason why I think the Portland Trailblazers lost this trade is because you can't get Bledsoe and play him minutes when Dame comes back. You already have way too many guards, and especially point guards, and this definitely takes minutes away from your young player who you obviously drafted and think is good. And I really like Anthony Simons. I think he has potential to be an All Star someday. So you taking him minutes away from him is, I think, stunting his growth.
He's doing well, and we're getting to it. Like you mentioned, now you do have a logjam of guards when Dame comes back, and one of those guards is C.J. McCollum. So maybe during the summer we see Dame shipped out, and maybe they decide to get what they get, see what they get for Dame, and pair that with Anthony Simons, and then he can be a starter with Bledsoe. That's just my thought that I came up with my head right now. I was thinking more before, thinking, okay, I think CJ McCollum's going to get shipped out. But what are your thoughts on? I think it would be sad if Dame left the Trailblazers. But I understand they haven't. His contract is incredibly huge, and I don't know. They'd have to do a lot of finagling to get the right players so they could be top team in the West.
Yeah. Do you just want to start our kind of who's most likely to be traded out of these five?
Yes, I think I gave my answer to number one. So we have 5 players. Those 5 players are McCollum, John Collins, Sabonis, Harden, and Brunson. All those players We're gonna rank 1 to 5. 1 being most likely. I'm gonna just say my one. My one is McCollum.
Okay, my number one is Sabonis. I think Sabonis is the most likely to get traded. I feel like Indiana wants to move on and get some pieces for the future.
Really? That's interesting. I just thought I kind of talked about my reasoning with McCollum because you add in another guard with Bledsoe, and maybe the Trailblazers want to close the time they've had with McCollum. Now my number two is John Collins. So I think Collins as a likely. Um, I feel he's the second most likely to get traded because I think there might be some teams like the Mavericks or other teams that see John Collins and how he's not shooting, he's not having as many attempts as he did the past few years with the Hawks. So I think a team may want to make him a more centerpiece of their offense, and I think the Hawks maybe be able to get a good return for him. So that's why I kind of see him getting traded. Um, that's why he's my second.
Yeah, my second is also John Collins. I feel like John Collins has a high probability of getting traded. Power forwards are or bigs are a very high commodity these days, and they can definitely improve your chances of winning. We saw that last year with Giannis and adding PJ Tucker, who even though he is smaller in stature, does play like a big. And this year he's shooting 47% from three for the Heat. So I do feel like shooting big men like John Collins, who are shooting over 40% from three, are going to be very high commodities, and I feel like a lot of people are going to want them.
Speaking of PJ Tucker, I was going to bring this up later. You mentioned his 3 point percentage. Is there someone with a higher 3 point percentage
No,
right now?
no.
Yeah, he's the leading. I just thought that. I was like, oh, he's playing for the Heat. So that's a good thing with the Heat as they brought him in addition with Kyle Lowry. But back to number three, I'm going to put Brunson at three. I feel like the two guys left are Harden and Sabonis, and I just feel I'm not. I don't see. I'd be pretty surprised, or I'd be surprised if Sabonis got traded. I think he's a young piece, and I think the Pacers want to keep him. I know we disagree on that, and I really don't know what the Mavs are going to do with Brunson. I would love to keep Brunson and pay him, but I know that's cap constraints. But the Mavs have been looking for a secondary creator, and I think Brunson's that guy. But there are concerns because Brunson in the playoffs last year got played out because of his size. So I think you can get a lot in return for Brunson. So that's why I could see the Mavs trading him, but I would like to keep him. I just don't really know. But out of the three left, Harden, Sabonis, and Brunson, I think Brunson's the most likely.
Got it. So my number three is Harden. I think the Nets are going to really, really try to make a move here because of their desperation. They are falling in the standings like the Wizards, like some other teams in the East, while other teams are rising. And I feel like the Nets are getting desperate, especially with the whole Kyrie situation where he can only play on the in away games. And while Harden is almost averaging a triple double, um, he is not shooting the best from the field, and his leadership qualities are not always the best, as we've seen in the past. A lot of people blame him for not being the best teammate at times, but I think he's the third most likely.
Okay, now into the fourth is Sabonis. I feel Sabonis versus Harden. I feel Sabonis has more likely being traded than Harden because I'm not sure who would want Harden, and it's just seem I just feel like Harden worked all his way to get to the Nets, and now it looks like he might be traded. So I guess I'm just gonna reveal my 4 and 5, Sabonis Harden. So you can do the same thing.
Yeah, so my four is McCullum. I'm not that high on him getting traded like you are, mainly because of Dame's injury. If you trade McCollum and you don't get back a shooting guard, your guard situation is very weird because I don't want Simons playing shooting guard and I don't want Bledsoe playing shooting guard, and their shooting guard depth is horrendous right now. So it leaves a very, very, very weird situation, especially with Nasir Little's injury. So they're just in a very weird spot moving forward. I like Keon Johnson. He may be able to play shooting guard, but I don't know if I would trust him as a starter after not getting much playing time with the Clippers. Him going into a starter role right after I trade McCollum may not be the best form of growth because it's very, very, very quick, and the turnaround is uh, insane for a player like him. And then my last is Brunson. I don't think Brunson gets traded. Cuban is very hard to trade players sometimes. He gets very attached to them. Also, Brunson's on an expiring deal, meaning that because of how well he's playing, if the Mavs were to trade him, they would give away their rights to him, the restricted free agent rights. In that, I don't know if a team values that enough for not Bledsoe, Brunson's value this season. Brunson is playing very well, and I feel like while I would trade him if possible if I was the Mavs because of what is in the future, because I don't know if he's going to be able to be re-signed for a reasonable price, because I think he's going to get overpaid uh, for what he should get. He should get around 25 million. I feel like some teams are going to offer 27, 28 because of how well he's playing right now. But I don't know if this is just a one-off because it's a contract year. Now, I would trade him, but I don't think it's likely because Mark Cuban sees how well the team is playing, wants to keep everyone together to keep the chemistry intact, and he gets very attached to his players, which isn't a bad thing, but it can hinder
Just
your ability to win games.
just look at the Mavs roster the past 3 years. He's very attached to it. The only major change I think we've seen in the starting lineup is Brunson.
And that's not major at all. I wouldn't consider
Yeah, I
that
know.
major.
Like that's the only major thing. Like they've made trades for uh bench guys like Redick, and that blew up. James Johnson and all those guys. There hasn't been a big shakeup. Um, Curious about like Brunson getting paid that 27 to 28 million. Is that in total or
No, that's per year.
okay? I was like, so I kind of agree with that. I think he's worth that.
If Brunson, if you're the Mavs, you can't afford to pay him more than 25. You can't.
Especially when you're paying KP.
You can't. You can't. The Mavs can't pay more than 25 or they lose like everybody. So if he's offered 27, 28, you just have to let him go. So the Mavs need to go all in this year if they're not going to trade Brunson, and I would trade Powell and Finney Smith. I like Finney Smith; he's a great defender, but he's probably going to get overpaid too. He's worth like 15 because he
Yeah,
does
and
not have the scoring prowess, but he's playing out of his mind right now. And if you could trade him for a solid defensive player, because of how well Reggie Bullock's playing right now, defensively speaking, I would start Reggie. Trade for a very, very elite scorer. That's where I would have liked Norman Powell. The Mavs offense is one of the worst in the league, one of the worst. And I'm not even saying anything very controversial in saying
you're
that.
right. It's bad, but the defense has gotten
Yes, but
much
that's why
better.
you trade Finney Smith. With Bullock playing as well, they could have hopped on that Norman Powell train and got Norman Powell a pure scorer that really, really would have helped the team. Uh,
I agree.
I feel like Finney Smith is probably the most likely guy to get traded on the Mavs. Besides guys like Dwight Powell, who's obviously more likely because he would be the piece that you add for cap. But I don't. I feel like the player they would add for cap is more likely Moses Brown and then somebody else, and then they make a trade. But I would keep Bullock because he is a higher upside 3 point wise and is playing very well defensively. And then move off on Finney Smith so you don't have to overpay him to keep him, and then make a move for a pure scorer.
I totally agree with what you're saying. If so, we have Brunson and Finney Smith. I would like to keep Brunson, but I think one of those two guys has to be traded at deadline
Has to be.
because
Has to be.
you could possibly lose out on both of the guys for nothing. I feel a team that wants to go all in this year. Finney Smith's contract is 4 million, which is incredibly low for what he's doing this season. So you can add him and maybe add another player, and I think so. I would like to trade Finney Smith, even though that would stink. I just think you have to do that to see what you sell high on him. And there's if you want to keep both, you have to go on a luxury tax, and I just don't think
Oh,
Cuban's going to do that.
Cuban, no, he never goes in the luxury
Well, yeah.
tax.
And my thing with paying Brunson, I would like to pay Brunson to keep him, but when you're paying Luca big money, Porzingis, and Brunson, that's a lot of the cap. And then I don't know what you fell on the other roster with. I agree with your thoughts on Bullock. I would like to trade Porzingis just because of the cap, and don't see. I just don't see how I could build a team because I want to have a good center, and I don't think Porzingis fits well at center. But then if I get someone at center, that means I move Porzingis to the 4, and I don't think I like Porzingis at the 4. And then you're paying all that money. Looking back on it, how I wanted to keep Porzingis, like as we've talked about, I feel you got to trade Porzingis because like if the Mavs rumors, and I've been seeing a bunch of rumors like John Collins. I feel if you're adding John Collins, you have to get rid of Porzingis, but the Hawks aren't going to take him. It's just I really don't like that fit with Porzingis
Yeah,
and any other center.
yeah. It would have to be a center who can shoot because the Mavs are a terrible shooting team, one of the worst shooting teams in the league. Very few are worse. I know the Wizards are, but that's just because Bradley Beal's deciding to shoot his worst 3-point percentage of his entire career. But Kristaps this year is only shooting 28% from three. That is atrocious, especially with the guy who attempts 5 a game, over 5 a game.
And like 2 from the logo.
Yeah. While John Collins' 3-point percentage has gone down to 39.7, 28.3 and 39.7 are worlds apart. And I feel like if you could make that swap, you would do it. But like you said, that trade isn't happening. The Hawks don't want Porzingis, and I don't think anyone does, especially with its injury history. And I think the Mavs really put themselves in a weird situation here because I don't know what they do going forward with Porzingis if they don't do well in the playoffs this year.
I don't know. I think maybe it's a dark horse or maybe it's me being hopeful. I think maybe Portland might take Porzingis, but I think the Mavs have to add in a lot of incentive to take that deal.
Maybe to get Nurkic. I've thought about a Nurkic trade, but all of those included Robert Covington, and now that Covington's gone, I don't know how the money works. So because the money, yeah, I don't know how the money works, but we'll see, because I want there to be some big trades that are important, but I don't really know what teams are going to be willing to take a risk.
I would like big trades too, and I know we're going long on here. But I think the more impactful thing that's going to shock us or an average NBA fan is the buyout market. Like we talked about the Nets and Lakers and what they did in the offseason. Who's going to get bought out, and what are the Lakers going to try to do to incentivize that player to get to them? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just don't know who's going to get bought out. I feel like Paul Millsap could go to the Lakers. Some other guys, maybe some veterans, but the Lakers are in a tough spot and they're playing terrible. So uh, I don't really know what they do. A lot of teams just got to get healthy, and because of all the injuries that there are this season, mainly because there was a shortened, just because the last couple of years have been going by so quickly, injuries are mounting, and that's really hindered the ability for the NBA to get star players in the game, as we've seen. Uh, KD's out, and that's a big name, and a lot of other good players are out that didn't get selected. Bradley Beal's been out for so long this season. He's missed so many games, and he's again
McCollum's
out.
been out.
Yeah, McCollum's been out. Dane's been out. Uh, very good players have been out, and I don't know which team is going to take that risk because a lot of players are looking relatively injury prone.
I agree. And I think we'll end the episode there. Thank you for listening, and let us know your thoughts on all we talked about.